You're listening to the Happy Doc Student Podcast, a podcast dedicated to providing clarity to the often mysterious doctoral process. Do you feel like you're losing your mind? Let me and my guests show you how to put more joy in your journey and graduate with your sanity, health, and relationships intact. I'm your host, Dr. Heather Frederick, and I'm honored to be here today with mentor Dr. Jody Hemerda and two of her mentees, Dr. Jennifer Lewis and Katina Artenant. They're here today to share their journeys as women in technology and discuss the power of belonging for career and academic progression. Ladies, welcome.
Thank you so much. We're so happy to be here, Heather.
Now, the term belonging is really trending right now, so it's probably safe to assume that the audience is familiar with this word. But like all good researchers, we are going to start with an operational definition. The definition of belonging that we're using is based on the 2021 work of Allen and colleagues. Belonging is a dynamic experience encompassing competencies, opportunities, motivations, and perceptions that foster a sense of connection and affiliation within individual ecosystems. Now, each of you have a story to share about belonging for you personally, professionally, and academically. Dr. Lewis, why don't you start with yours?
Sure. Thank you. So academically, I think a sense of belonging kind of hit for me when you start your coursework through your doctoral program. You start your coursework, you start going through the motions and trying to figure things out. For me, I guess this was doubled down by the fact that it started during COVID. So we started normalizing a lot of these remote conversations and get-togethers. So you're finding your peers remotely online. You're trying to connect with them and find out, am I doing this right? Does this sound okay? As you go through this program, some people are moving forward, moving ahead. Some people may be falling a little bit more behind. There's creating some gaps there, and those gaps create opportunity for sort of this mentorship to happen and helping the person behind you find their path, or asking the person in front of you what comes next. So I really had this sense of belonging with this group as I went through this program. These people I still talk to, right? I'm at the place now where I'm kind of mentoring back to some folks. There's been additional people added to this group, but I really belonged in this group. This was my group, and it was a group to help get through this program. Moving forward, then there was a much more personal connection for me during the research phase. My research was specifically on women in technology in Silicon Valley, which is that is my demographic. I'm a woman. I work in technology, and I live in the Bay Area. So going through my interviews, these individual interviews with people, there was this profound and unexpected belonging that happened, that as I'm asking them questions in this environment, this research environment it's low risk to them. I don't know these women. I don't work with them. They're sharing their stories with me pretty willingly. It's a high trust environment. I mean, that's sort of built into the research process. And they're sharing these stories with me. And after 15 years of working in the industry, in the area, these stories are my stories. These are things that I've felt. These are my people. So it was this sense of belonging as they're sharing their lived experiences of their stories. And often today, in the past, I've been the only woman in the room, and these women have felt the same. So where I didn't have this belonging for 15 years, I sort of felt this sense of belonging with this group and going through the research. Now, professionally, I have relationships now with some of these women. We talk often. They work in the area. They work in my backyard. So I do expect that professionally we're going to be able to continue that and to help each other in our careers, and to say this position is over here. Let me help you with this. Or, hey, you know what? I worked at that company too. Let me help you find your way over there. Do you know this person? So these are these peer-to-peer informal networks that that create this sense of belonging that really stemmed from this academic process for me.
I'm going to guess that this network that you created through your research was an unexpected bonus.
It was. I went into research expecting to be this observational person. You collect the data, you analyze the data, you talk about the data, you amplify these voices for these lived experiences. And then I just became it. It was very unexpected to have this group of women that you belong with.
And so you went into your doctoral program wanting to study something that was of interest to you, having this somewhat specific experience of being a woman in technology in the Bay Area. And the degree not only gave you the academic accolades, you've got this title now, but is it fair to say you're leaving with a new tribe?
Yeah, I think that's really fair to say. I have this group of women that I've met not only in this journey, but even going back, this group of people that I've met through the journey that are also going through the journey. And you identify on different levels. Often these are found through vulnerabilities, right? My vulnerability of needing help getting through my program. I found this peer group, or their vulnerability in telling me their stories. You find these people. So through this low risk, high trust, vulnerable environments, you pick up tribe members along the way. So I think that's a great way to say it. You found a tribe.
And I'm a big believer, and I know Jody is as well, because we've talked about this before, that having a tribe significantly impacts many facets of your life.
Yes, very much so.
Dr. Lewis, thank you so much for sharing your story. Dr. Artenant, would you like to share yours next?
Yeah, Heather, thank you so much. So my research was centered around underrepresented minority women in STEM. And how they navigated their careers to be in leadership positions within STEM, with or without mentoring. I wanted to know if mentoring played a key or pivotal role in their career progress. And as an underrepresented minority woman in STEM, I had some preconceived idea of what they may say. And that was totally opposite of what I heard. What I heard from these 10 women was that it was a varied journey for many of them, and across various spaces in STEM, whether it was the sciences, the technology, or the engineering. They shared that most of them didn't have official mentors or official mentoring opportunities, that they grab someone's attention based on the type of work or the consistency of their work ethic. So they had sponsors. They had sponsors that saw that they know how to get the job done, and so they gave them their next opportunity. And it was in those next opportunities that many of them realized that there was an unmet need, because many of the women that I interviewed decided to pay it forward. They decided to become those mentors or leave those breadcrumbs in the trail of those that are coming behind them or aside of them. And also in my research, this was the first time that many of them shared their story. And so even though they were deficient in receiving mentoring or participating in official mentoring opportunities that these organizations that they worked for possibly offered that they were not a part of, they still journeyed on to become successful. And so that resounded with my story as an underrepresented minority woman in STEM. I think personally, professionally, and academically, there's been gaps of insufficiency that I align it to fitting in, or like wearing shoes that are 2 sizes too small. You wear them because you have nothing else to wear, and either they will conform to your feet or you learn how to navigate your journey with tight shoes on. And so this research and this research experience and this learning experience has tied it all together for me in a pretty bow with shoes that fit, and not only prepared me for the next, but I think having these conversations, and a lot of the women that I spoke to felt relieved that they were able to share in the capacity of this research. They expressed a sense of pride in allowing their voice to be a part of this research, and not only allowing their voice to be a part of this research, but speaking up finally and saying what didn't work and what they wished were available to them as they were young, STEM, career-focused ladies.
So there's something to be said about having someone witness your story. And both yourself and Dr. Lewis gave women a voice to share a story that they hadn't shared before. And I'm wondering, the result of your research was the main theme that came from these stories, the need for more women mentors for women in these situations?
For me, it was the need for more women to mentor other women, yes, but also for underrepresented minority women to be included at ideation and not considered after the fact, because there seems to be a difference. There were two women in my study who had mentors. Both of them were men, but they had mentors, and they feel that that made the difference because their career trajectory was totally different than the women that didn't have the mentors. So to just consider them at the beginning when forming these mentoring opportunities, to just have them all considered instead of them not at all.
I love the vision of the tight shoes. And what I'm hearing is that it's important to feel comfortable and like you can be your authentic self, like you're kicking around in your favorite tennies versus these shoes that just don't fit. Now, Dr. Hemerda was your mentor. She, it sounds like, gave you guys the opportunity to try on the tennies. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say. Yes.
Jody, we're going to open up the floor to you now. Let's hear your story.
Thank you. So I'm really honored to be here, and so honored to have been a mentor to both of the doctors who I get to call friends, Jennifer and Katina. And it's truly been my life's dedication to holding doors for others and being aware of who's not at the table, who's not being represented, and spending more than 20 years in online education, behind the scenes and in front of the scenes. Most of that time has been working on the technology side of the house and wanting to make sure that if it's at a university that has a traditional program and an online program, that the majority of the stakeholders at the school who are used to thinking of the traditional students who are on campus remember the students who are also online and valuing them and thinking about their needs. And so that's what my entire career really has been dedicated to. And I think it stems from a sense of inclusion and wanting to create a space where everyone can feel belonging. And when you don't have the ability to drive to class, maybe you have children that need childcare, maybe you have some other type of care situation, maybe it's a mobility issue, whatever the reason is, just because you cannot physically be there doesn't mean that you shouldn't have access. And so I'm really passionate about open access education. And so for me, that's where a lot of this stems from. And my journey was very much a precocious young child of a single mom raised without a father. She was a young mom in the 70s. And so for those of you who may not know, women in the 70s could not get credit. And so, imagine trying to do anything, secure housing, provide for me. She wasn't welcome at my school's PTO. Just such a sense of otherness in a community where we're just all children, right? Like, I'm a student and I was raised by very strong women, and I just didn't see no as an option. And so I was very fortunate, even though I felt very much this sense of otherness in my personal life, I still felt a sense of belonging. Like it was okay to be different. It was okay to be me. And when I was in school, the first inkling that I had that something was different was in junior high school, when there was a boy who made it clear that he did not want my help with math. And when you're in junior high, it's all about your hormones, and you want, especially somebody that you like to like you back. And so, right, like that's like a really tender moment. And to find that I would be better accepted if I wasn't smart was a really strong message. And so it was something that, I kind of banked. And then I went to college and I studied math and statistics, and I tutored for the College of Natural Sciences for the 4 years that I was in school. And yet I saw other people have opportunities that I didn't have. And so one of the ideas that I came up with along the way, maybe it wasn't as clear, but as I look back, it's more clear. Was I self-excluding? Was I telling myself a story that started with the boy who I liked, who liked me better when I didn't know math better than him, the engineering building people who were hanging out, verbally telling me I didn't belong there and I was in the wrong building when that's where the majority of my classes were? Did those build a story in my head of I don't belong here? And how did that affect, my trajectory and what I did with my life's work? And when I was dean of a university and I would stand on the stage in front of the faculty, I routinely would say, who's not in the room that we're not thinking about? And I think it really stems from that sense of wanting everyone to feel a sense of belonging. But as I reflect back, I do wonder what doors were open to me that I did not go into because I'd created a story that I didn't belong in there. And it's really important to me that as a person who has influence, as a chair, as a teacher, as a leader, I really want to be able to help other people challenge the stories they're telling themselves, challenge the people who may think that they're creating psychological safety and a space where everyone can belong. Are they truly showing up with vulnerability and authenticity to be able to allow others to come into that space in the same way? And that is what I challenge myself to do. And when I have an opportunity to work with students, I tell them, I'm not going to be the best chair available to you, but I'm going to work really hard and I'm going to use my network, because to me, that's the belonging. You're not just getting me, you're getting my entire network. And for me, that sense of, Heather, you call it tribe. To me, that is everything. The people in our lives are so important, and wanting them to know we care about them and allowing other people into those spaces, I just think is a really powerful thing that we can do. And we can help make sure that the next generation has even more precocious yeses and breaking boundaries and glass ceilings. And I think that we are really making incredible strides. I look at our students and the research they're doing on psychological safety and being able to speak to the nuggets that came out in my research from 10 years ago. where the literature was showing that learners are risk adverse and that deep learning happens in the vulnerability. And so as teachers and leaders in organizations, we have to create that psychologically safe space.
Jody, I love the call of reflecting personally. Might there be a story that I'm telling myself? Might there be an open door that I'm just blind to? I love that. You kind of led into queuing it up for me to ask you, do you have a tip for fostering belonging for faculty?
For me, it is to see ourselves in others. When we are in a space where we're feeling discomfort because we're being vulnerable, I challenge people to recognize that discomfort as a connection with the others in the room because they also possibly feel a sense of discomfort. And to me, that's an opportunity for connection.
Jennifer, do you have some final words of wisdom for the audience about fostering belonging?
Yeah, thank you. One thing I heard all of us talk about today is, and repeatedly, was vulnerability and that self-reflection and taking a minute to find the opportunities to create belonging for ourselves, for others, on that first day of class, on that first job, but your first day of your new job, somebody looking for their way. Find those vulnerable moments and capitalize on those as somebody who can create belonging for somebody else.
And would that be maybe as simple as introducing yourself? It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. Am I right?
Yeah, it's organic how it forms. And in that vulnerability, if you can come to the table with empathy, you've been there at a human level. We've all been there. So bring that empathy with you to say, I know what you're feeling today. Here's some things that I learned that I wish I knew on my first day. Even if you just mentally go through that exercise, what is this person experiencing in their vulnerability? Surely I've experienced it. How can I fill that gap? Finding those gaps of mentorship opportunities, peer-to-peer opportunities, help them belong.
And Katina, why don't you bring it home and give us your tip for fostering belonging?
Sure. My tip is just to be considerate. Be considerate of everyone's needs in the room, that they want to feel welcome. Having that simple consideration, I think will put some guards down to allow us to just come to a common ground faster.
It's such a simple but profoundly important task. And boy, what a beautiful world it would be, wouldn't it, if we all just took that simple step. Ladies, thank you so much for sharing your stories. It's been so much fun to hang out with you today.
Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening, and I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Until then, if you're looking for more ways to invite joy in your journey, check out the free resources at expandyourhappy.com. You'll find downloads like an article I wrote titled The Doctoral Journey, 12 Things You Need to Know That They Probably Won't Tell You. You'll also find a PDF that organizes all podcasts by the 7 steps detailed in the Happy Doc Student Handbook, which you can also find on the website. Finally, if you're looking for Happy Doc student swag, I've got that too. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and YouTube channel, and if you want to make my day, rate and review so that together we can change the way doctoral education is delivered and experienced. Hey, one more thing. Just a quick reminder that the information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only.